Ariana did not fall at once. That was the first mercy, and the first torment. The curse struck the hearthstone behind her shoulder, not her heart, and the cottage at Godric's Hollow seemed to inhale the spell as though the house itself had been waiting all summer to scream. Light broke against stone. A burst of white gold magic rushed outward, hotter than flame and colder than winter water, lifting dust from the floorboards, snapping crockery on the shelves, rattling the iron hooks above the fire. For one breath, Ariana was only a thin shape inside the brightness. Her hair blown about her face, her hands lifted not in defense but in frightened wonder, as though she had heard a song no one else could hear. Then the force of it hurled her across the room. She struck the wall below Kendra's old portrait and slid down through a rain of plaster. The frame cracked. Her mother's painted face flickered between outrage and grief before vanishing behind falling dust. Aberforth shouted her name with such violence that it did not sound like a name at all. Albus could not move. Gellert moved first, not toward the girl but toward the door. That was the second thing Albus remembered afterward, and perhaps the thing he hated himself for most. Gellert Grindelwald had understood survival, while Albus was still trying to understand guilt. "Ariana," Aberforth said, dropping to his knees. His voice broke on the last syllable. "Ari, look at me. Look at me. Damn you, look at me." The room had become a ruin of wand smoke and overturned chairs. The morning sun through the window was dim behind the hovering dust. The table where three boys had argued over the fate of the world lay on its side. The map of Europe, marked in Gellert's hard, beautiful handwriting, had caught fire at the edges. The phrase for the greater good curled into black. Albus stared at the wand in his hand. It was absurdly light. Only a sliver of polished wood, nothing more. Yet in the space of 3 breaths it had become an executioner's blade. A judge's seal, a confession written in lightning. "Ariana," Aberforth whispered now, more gently, his anger drowned by terror. "Please." Her eyes opened. The sound that left Albus was not relief. Relief belonged to people who had not caused the thing from which they were being delivered. The sound was smaller and uglier, a gasp pulled from somewhere beneath his ribs. Ariana's eyes were gray-blue like smoke after rain, unfocused at first, then wide with pain. Her lips parted. No words came. Magic trembled around her skin in thin, bright veins, vanishing and appearing beneath her sleeves, across her throat, at her temples. Every pane of glass in the cottage shivered. Somewhere upstairs, a wardrobe door slammed open and shut again, again, as if an unseen hand were trapped inside. Aberforth sobbed once and pressed his forehead to her knuckles. "You're here," he said. "You're here, you're here." Albus took one step, and his brother looked up. "Don't dot." The word had more force than any spell cast that day. Albus stopped. Gellert, halfway to the doorway, turned. His face, usually so luminous with certainty, had gone bloodless. A red mark cut across his cheek where Aberforth's earlier curse had grazed him. In that instant, stripped of rhetoric and prophecy, he looked like what he was. 17, brilliant, frightened, and already ruined by the pleasure of being obeyed. "She lives," Gellert said. No one answered. "She lives, Albus." Albus heard his own name as though it belonged to someone standing outside the broken window. Aberforth looked over his shoulder at Gellert. "Get out." Gellert's mouth tightened. This was not, "Get out before I kill you." "You have tried. I will do better." The air thickened. Albus felt it before he understood it. Ariana's magic, stirred by pain and panic, curled outward without direction, searching for threat. The fallen plaster lifted from the floor in pale flakes. The iron poker beside the hearth bent slowly in half. A chair leg splintered, not from impact, but from pressure inside the wood. Ariana whimpered. The sound broke whatever spell held Albus still. He dropped his wand as though it had burned him and knelt at a distance from her, hands open. "Ariana," he said. His voice shook. "Ariana, it is Albus. You are safe." Aberforth laughed. One hard breath. "Safe?" Albus flinched. Gellert saw that flinch. Albus knew he saw it, because Gellert missed nothing that might one day be useful. For the smallest, worst moment, their eyes met across the wreckage of the room. There had been weeks when Albus believed he had found the only mind in the world that could match his own, the only soul swift enough to run beside him without panting, the only person who could understand that brilliance was not arrogance when it was true. They had sat beneath summer trees and spoken of ministries remade, wizards freed from hiding, muggles protected from their own cruelty by kinder, wiser masters. They had mistaken the heat of agreement for moral light. Now a girl lay between them, alive by a cruel fraction. That fraction became the border of Albus' life. Gellert's expression changed first. Not softened. Never that. It sharpened. Behind the fear, calculation returned like a torch being relit. "She needs help," he said. Aberforth bared his teeth. "Not yours. The village will have heard. Then run faster." "Albus," Gellert said, and in his voice was everything. Command, plea, promise, accusation. "Come." The invitation struck Albus harder than the duel. Come. It meant leave the broken cottage, leave Aberforth with his fury, leave Ariana with her pain, leave the consequence, and keep the dream. It meant there was still a road, still Europe, still the Hallows, still greatness waiting beyond a door that had not yet closed. Gellert believed a life could pivot on courage, and he had always mistaken abandonment for courage when it served him. Albus looked at Ariana. Her gaze had found him now. Not fully. Not with understanding of the duel or the speeches or the grand philosophies that had crowded the air of her home until there was no room left for her breath. But she knew him. She knew the shape of him. The brother who read to her when storms frightened her. The brother who grew impatient when she forgot words. The brother who loved her, though never well enough to stop wanting a world beyond her sick room. Her fingers twitched toward him. Not Aberforth. Him. Oh. Albus crawled the final distance as if approaching judgment. Aberforth shifted, half blocking him, then saw Ariana's hand and could not deny her. Albus took her fingers. They were cold. Magic snapped against his skin, not attacking, only overflowing. He bowed his head over her hand, and for the first time since boyhood he prayed without eloquence. "I am here," he said. "I will not go." Gellert stood in the doorway while the summer dust turned around him like ash. "Albus," he said again. This time there was less plea in it. Albus did not look up. The silence lengthened. Outside, someone shouted from the lane. A dog barked. The ordinary world, ignorant and persistent, came stumbling toward the catastrophe. Gellert understood then. Perhaps not remorse. Perhaps not even loss. But consequence, yes. He understood that the moment had chosen its witness, and that Albus would not follow him. The great future they had built in whispers had cracked on the floorboards of a cottage and bled into the grain. "You will regret this," Gellert said. Aberforth reached for his wand. When Albus finally looked up, the doorway was empty. A beat later came the hard crack of disapparition. Ariana cried out at the sound, and every candle in the house burst into flame. The neighbors arrived to find the Dumbledore house smoking, its windows broken, its front door hanging crookedly from one hinge. Bathilda Bagshot came first, her bonnet askew, her face drained of color. She took in Aberforth's bloodied lip, Albus' white face, Ariana's trembling hands, and asked no foolish questions. She had lived long enough among wizards to know that tragedy often dressed itself as accident, until the ministry came to give it a cleaner name. "Fetch my bag," she told the man behind her. "And no one touches anything." "Miss Bagshot," Albus said, rising unsteadily, "please." "You be quiet." She crossed the room with surprising strength for a woman of her years, and knelt beside Ariana. "Child, can you hear me?" Ariana stared at her, breathing in little glassy pulls. Bathilda's expression altered. It was not fear exactly, but recognition. The girl's magic filled the room like a storm locked inside a chapel. It had always been unstable, always buried under silence and shame, and the family's careful lie that she was merely delicate, merely unwell, merely unsuited to visitors. Now it poured through every crack the Duel had opened in her. "She needs St. Mungo's," Bathilda said. "No ministry," Aberforth said immediately. Bathilda looked at him. "She may die." "She won't." "Boy, she won't," Aberforth repeated, and the stubbornness in him was so desperate it was almost holy. "But if the ministry sees what she is, they'll put her somewhere. They'll lock her up. They'll ask why. They'll ask what happened when she was 6. They'll make a show of it." Albus closed his eyes. When Ariana had been 6, 3 Muggle boys had seen her make flowers bloom and die in the same handful of dirt. They had hurt her for it. She had never been the same. Percival Dumbledore had gone after them, and the law had taken him from his family, and Kendra had moved them to Godric's Hollow, burying scandal beneath respectability. They had all lived inside that burial ever since. Bathilda touched Ariana's forehead. "Then we send for a private healer. One who talks," Aberforth demanded. "One who owes me." Her eyes flicked to Albus. "And one who does not ask after clever young foreigners who leave houses in ruins." Albus swallowed. Aberforth heard the name not spoken and went rigid. "If you defend him." "I will not," Albus said. "You already did." The words landed clean. Albus had no shield against them. Bathilda's voice snapped between them. "Not now. If you boys must tear each other apart, do it after your sister has decided whether she intends to remain among us." "No." Ariana made a small sound, not quite a laugh, not quite a sob. Both brothers fell silent at once. The healer came under dusk. His name was Hector Folly, a narrow old wizard with silver spectacles, a traveling cloak damp with evening mist, and a face that suggested he had long ago become too familiar with secrets to be surprised by them. He examined Ariana in the parlor after Bathilda and Aberforth cleared broken glass from the rug. Albus stood outside the door and listened to the low murmur of spells. He had never felt so useless. There were few experiences more humiliating to a gifted young man than discovering that brilliance could not reverse 1 minute of stupidity. He had won prizes, mastered charms beyond his years, corrected professors in the margins of their own books. None of it mattered. He could not clean the blood from Aberforth's collar. He could not stop Ariana's breath from hitching whenever a floorboard creaked. He could not call back the curse and ask it whose wand had cast it. That question had already begun its lifelong work inside him. Whose curse? The duel had been chaos. 3 wands. Shouts overlapping. Aberforth attacking Gellert. Gellert defending, then striking. Albus trying to separate them, trying to restrain one brother and not betray the other, trying to stop everything while having help bring everything into being. There had been red light, blue, gold. The crack of magic against stone. Ariana in the doorway, her name in his mouth. Then the flash. If he never knew whose spell had struck her, perhaps he would have to carry all 3. The door opened after midnight. Hector Folly stepped out, looking older than when he had entered. Bathilda followed, pale but composed. Aberforth remained inside with Ariana. "She will live," the healer said. Albus's knees nearly failed. But not as she was. Albus forced himself upright. "What do you mean?" Folly removed his spectacles and cleaned them with a cloth, though they were not dirty. Her magic suffered a violent shock, not merely physical injury. The spell impact disrupted existing suppressions, conscious and unconscious. "I cannot speak plainly without knowing her history." "Nah. You know enough," Bathilda said quietly. The healer glanced at the closed door. "She has carried fear in her magic for a long time. Tonight that fear found a door." Albus gripped the stair rail. "She may have fewer outbursts," Folly continued. "Or more. She may speak more clearly in time, or retreat further. She may become calmer or powerful in ways that endanger herself and others. There is no tidy answer, not with injuries like this." "Can you help her?" Albus asked. "I can keep her body alive." I can give drafts for pain and sleep. Beyond that, he looked directly at Albus then, and perhaps Bathilda had told him something, or perhaps guilt had a scent after all. The house must change. No more tension, no raised voices, no sudden magic near her. No strangers unless carefully introduced. She cannot be a prisoner of other people's fear. Albus's throat tightened. A prisoner. There it was. The word they had all avoided, though the house had been built of it. What of St. Mungo's? He asked. Folly's expression became guarded. There are wards where she could be kept. Kept. Dot. Yes. Not healed. The healer did not answer. Behind the door, Aberforth spoke softly to Ariana. Some nonsense about goats that would once have made Albus roll his eyes. Now it sounded like the only sane speech in the world. Folly tucked his spectacles away. I will return in 3 days. Miss Bagshot has my address. Until then, watch her carefully. And Mr. Dumbledore. Both brothers might have answered, but only Albus stood in the hallway. Yes. If the young man who fled returns, do not let him near her. Albus looked toward the dark window. His own reflection stared back. Tall, red-haired, hollow-eyed, already a stranger to himself. He will not return, he said. He was wrong, of course. Gellert Grindelwald did not return to Godric's Hollow that week, nor that month, nor for many years in any form a neighbor might see. But he returned in letters burned before dawn, in rumors from the continent, in newspaper columns about thefts and duels and strange symbols carved into prison walls. He returned whenever Albus saw a flash of gold in a stranger's hair, whenever an ambitious student spoke too easily of necessary sacrifices, whenever Ariana woke screaming and the windows silvered with frost in August. For 3 days after the duel, Albus did not sleep. He sat outside Ariana's room while Aberforth slept in a chair beside her bed, one hand around his wand and the other around a mug of tea gone cold. When Ariana woke, she sometimes knew them and sometimes did not. She asked for Kendra once, in a child's voice, and Aberforth went into the garden afterward and broke the handle of a spade against the stone wall. Albus watched through the kitchen window, unable to follow. The funeral did not happen because the dead had declined their appointment. That fact changed Godric's Hollow more than any burial would have. Had Ariana died, grief would have hardened into a shape the village understood. There would have been black robes, flowers, whispers, the sad dignity of a family ruined by misfortune. Instead, there was life. Inconvenient, breathing, unpredictable life. Curtains moved in the Dumbledore house at odd hours. Strange lights pulsed behind them. Bathilda came and went with baskets. Aberforth took to buying bread at dawn to avoid questions. Albus did not go to London. He did not take the position that had been offered to him. He did not write to Ulfias Doge, except to send one short line. My sister is unwell. I must remain. Ulfias wrote back with sympathy, then confusion, then hurt, then silence. Albus accepted each letter as part of his sentence. The world he had meant to conquer narrowed to a bedroom, a kitchen, a garden wall, and the lane between his home and Bathilda's. He learned to brew calming drafts properly. He learned which floorboard outside Ariana's room creaked and how to step over it. He learned that Aberforth sang when he thought Albus was not listening, old nonsense songs from their childhood, and that Ariana's breathing steadied when he did. He also learned the full weight of his brother's hatred. Aberforth did not rage every day. Rage would have been easier. There were mornings when he spoke to Albus with chilly practicality about food, medicine, repairs. There were evenings when they sat in the same room, each reading a different book. Ariana dozing by the fire, and anyone looking in might have mistaken them for a wounded but functioning family. Then Albus would say the wrong word, or his hand would drift unconsciously toward his wand, or an owl would tap at the window with news from the wider world, and Aberforth's face would close. "You still want to go," he said one night. Albus looked up from a book he had not been reading. "No." Liar. Ariana slept in the armchair between them, a blanket over her knees. Her hair had been brushed smooth, though one strand had escaped and lay across her cheek. The firelight made her look younger. Albus lowered the book. "I deserve many accusations. Not that one." Aberforth's laugh was quiet enough not to wake her. "You think staying means you stopped wanting?" The words found their mark, because they were true. Albus wanted. Not as he had before, perhaps. Not with the same clean hunger. But some part of him still turned toward the horizon when an owl came from London, still quickened at the mention of discoveries, debates, appointments, names being made. Ambition did not die because innocence almost had. It merely learned shame and became more dangerous for being buried. "I will not leave her," Albus said. "No, you'll sit there and be noble until everyone praises you for it." Albus shut his eyes. "Don't do that," Aberforth said. "Don't look wounded. You always look wounded when someone tells the truth too plainly." Ariana stirred. Both brothers froze. Her eyes opened halfway, clouded by sleep. "Don't fight," she whispered. Aberforth's face changed at once. "We're not, Ari. You are inside." Her fingers touched her chest, both loud. Albus's breath caught. She had spoken more in the past week than in whole months before. Not always clearly, not always in ways that made sense, but with sudden piercing accuracy that left both brothers uneasy. Folly had said the shock might alter the paths through which her magic and mind touched the world. Sometimes she forgot the names of common objects. Sometimes she looked at Albus and said things he had not dared think in words. Aberforth knelt beside her. "Sorry, I'll be quiet." She looked past him to Albus. He left. The room chilled. Albus did not ask who. "Yes, Golden Boy." Aberforth went still. Ariana's eyes drifted toward the fire. "He was bright like knives. I didn't like him." Albus felt something inside him tear slowly, like cloth caught on a nail. "I know," he said. "No," Ariana murmured. "You didn't." Autumn arrived with rain that turned the lane to black mud and hammered the repaired roof as if the sky disapproved of patchwork mercy. Godric's hollow folded into itself. Smoke rose from chimneys. Apples rotted under trees. The church bell rang for other people's deaths. Ordinary deaths. Deaths with witnesses who could say what had happened. Inside the Dumbledore house, life settled into rituals. Ariana woke late, if she had slept. Aberforth brought tea with honey. Albus prepared drafts in the kitchen, measuring with an exactness that bordered on devotion. Mathilda visited at noon when she could, bringing books, gossip, and the stubborn normality of an old woman who refused to tiptoe around sorrow forever. At first, Ariana remained mostly in bed. Her body healed faster than her magic. The bruise across her shoulder faded from black to violet to yellow, but the room still answered her moods. When she panicked, metal tarnished. When she slept peacefully, flowers grew through cracks in the windowsill, tiny white blossoms opening in moonlight. Once, when Aberforth made her laugh with a story about a goat that had eaten the hem of a vicar's robe, every spoon in the kitchen turned into a silver moth and battered itself against the ceiling until Albus coaxed them down. "Don't stare," Aberforth snapped as one landed on Albus' eve. "I am not staring. You look like you're making notes." Albus gently transformed the moth back into a spoon. "Perhaps I am trying to understand." "She isn't a puzzle." "No," Albus said softly. "She is not." That answer deflated the argument before it began, which seemed to annoy Aberforth more than fighting would have. Understanding became Albus' private labor, not experimentation. Never that. The very idea sickened him now. But observation, reading, correspondence under cautious names. He wrote to obscure healers in Switzerland and old curse breakers in Alexandria, to a retired unspeakable who had once published a heavily redacted paper on magical trauma, to a Welsh witch rumored to calm obscurial storms with music. He never named Ariana. He never mentioned Godric's Hollow. He asked questions as hypothetical as lies, and received answers as thin as cobweb. The word obscurus appeared in 3 letters and was crossed out in 2. Albus burned those letters in the garden. Aberforth caught him at it. "What are you hiding?" Albus watched black flakes rise into the wet air. "Things that would frighten you." Aberforth's eyes narrowed. Try me. Things that would frighten me then. For once, Aberforth did not answer quickly. They stood under the gray afternoon, brothers made almost identical by rain-dark hair and sleeplessness, yet separated by a chasm no resemblance could bridge. Beyond the wall, the village moved through its day. A cartwheel creaked. Someone laughed. Somewhere, ordinary boys shouted to one another over a game, and both Dumbledores looked toward the sound. Aberforth spoke first. "When she was 6, I used to think Percival would come home and fix it." Albus stared at the ash. "I knew he couldn't," Aberforth continued. "Azkaban doesn't give fathers back. But I still thought it. Every birthday, every Christmas. I thought, this time I'll walk through the door and Mum will stop looking like she's listening for thunder." Albus had never heard his brother speak so long of their father. Percival had become a silence in the house, not from lack of love, but because love without remedy was too exhausting to name. "I thought the same," Albus said. Aberforth snorted. "No, you didn't. You thought if you got clever enough, you wouldn't need anyone to come back." The truth of it was almost unbearable. I was a child. So was I. Rain gathered at the end of Aberforth's nose and dropped. His hands were red from cold. He worked now whenever he could, taking odd jobs among villagers who knew better than to ask many questions. He had always preferred animals to people, and people had sensed it and trusted him for it. Ariana trusted him most. That was as it should be, Albus told himself. It was justice in miniature. But justice could hurt and still be justice. "What did the letters say?" Aberforth asked. Albus considered lying. He had become more careful with lies, not less capable. "They say that when magic is forced inward by terror, it can become something separate from the witch or wizard who bears it. A parasite of pain, a storm with a will but no mercy." Aberforth's face tightened. "That's not her." "No. You just said..." "I said what frightened men wrote when they wanted a name for what they did not know how to love." Aberforth looked at him sharply. Albus folded the last letter and held it above the flame. They described cases where isolation worsened the condition. Fear worsened it. Shame worsened it. Attempts to bind or suppress it often led to catastrophe. Now, Mum kept her hidden to protect her. "I know." "Do you?" Albus let the paper catch. "I know she did what she thought was necessary. I also know necessity can become a locked door if no one questions it." Aberforth's voice lowered. "Careful. I am not blaming her. You always blame the dead politely." Albus almost smiled, which would have been unforgivable, so he did not. Perhaps. The letter burned to nothing. For a while they listened to rain striking leaves. "What do we do?" Aberforth asked at last. It was the first time he had said "we" since the duel. Albus did not look at him. If he looked too quickly, the moment might retreat. "We stopped treating her survival as a secret to be managed," he said. "We let her have air, choices, company when she wants it. We teach her not to fear her own magic." Aberforth's jaw clenched. "And when she loses control, then we help her regain it. That easy?" "No." Albus turned toward him. "Not easy." Aberforth studied him, searching for ambition disguised as care. Albus could not blame him. He searched himself for the same thing every morning. "You're not taking her to London." "No." You're not writing papers about her. No. You're not using her to prove something. The answer came slowly, because Albus refused to give it cheaply. I will spend the rest of my life making sure I do not. Aberforth looked away first. That evening they brought Ariana downstairs. It took an hour. She insisted on walking, though her legs trembled and the staircase seemed to lengthen beneath every step. Aberforth went before her, backward, hands ready. Albus followed behind, saying nothing,